When I was deployed in Afghanistan, I really liked how close everybody got and how we really ended up working as one unit at the end. I mean, we worked together all the time, but being in such close proximity with everybody on a day in and day out schedule, you really get to know each other, and it's just a different level of closeness and a different level of understanding and just really knowing you have to look out for each other and having that trust and that bond was really amazing.
My first working dive in Mayport after 3 years, we dive what's called an umbilical in hard hat diving, and it's aptly named because it almost, if you look at pictures of them, baby umbilicals and this umbilical, it's the same thing. It's sustaining your life while you're in fluid. That's basically what it is. And it's how I communicate, it's how I breathe. It's also the strain relief to hoist me off the bottom. So that umbilical was trapped someplace and I couldn't figure out what it was. And in diving, you have what's called the table and schedule. So for the depth you're at, you have a maximum amount of time that your body can on-gas nitrogen. And I was coming up to the end of that table, or the schedule. And back in those days, we had what's called exceptional exposure. And whether I came up with symptoms or not, they were gonna have to press me in the chamber. And the minute I got out of the chamber, we would have lost all the certifications in our equipment because we exceeded the working limits of that equipment. So there was kind of pressure on me, and they really weren't helping me out. They basically told me on the surface that I needed to help myself and tell them what I needed. So I told them to start hoisting stuff up, and there was some debate over that, and they said, that's what I need. And I remember being frustrated at one point, just laying in the mud and feeling sorry for myself and thinking about my daughter. And I thought, no, I'm not doing this. I'm not going out this way. And I told them what I needed to do, and I said, maybe hoist up this tool. And that seemed to free it because I felt a jerk on my umbilical, which meant it was going to the surface. Up to this point, it was on the bottom with me. That's not the way, we were in a 2-knot current. It should have been pulling me the entire time, and it wasn't. And when I felt a jerk, I knew it was going straight to the surface, so I felt better about that. But because of this, I was gonna have to stay at a safety stop about 3 times as long than I was originally supposed to. So for 45 minutes, I'm in the current washing over me, and I'm just bear hugging our descent line, which is how we go up and how we stay close to the surface, which is attached to the barge. So it means I'll come up right where the barge is, where the boat is. So I'm hanging on to that, and all I could do is just listen to music being piped in from another helmet, and just sat there and relieved that I'd gotten out of it. And I worked myself out of it. I didn't need that. And that's a testament to the training that we got. I didn't panic. I just kind of felt, I was feeling frustrated, but I didn't remember panicking that much. And I know at the time I was in good hands because everyone on surface was definitely pulling for me. They didn't want to see anything happen to me either.
We used to go to Las Vegas actually for the military. We have a large exercise area for aircraft that are based out of Las Vegas. And while we're there, aircraft from all over the world come into this one flight line. So for every hour of the day and night, there are aircraft taking off. And those aircraft taking off nonstop for hours and hours is a sight to see. So if you picture afterburners coming out of aircraft, back to back to back to back for hours on end, it's kind of a really exciting thing. So people go to air shows to see aircraft flying, taking off, walking through those aircraft, but to actually see those aircraft going off to do, I guess they were practice missions, but they were going off to practice, getting ready for real world situations. That's probably my most memorable thing I can think of in my mind.
So it was after the last event that we had to do in basic training before we got our U.S. Army patch on this side. Yeah, U.S. Army patch. We had a bonfire, and there was a big speech by all the drill sergeants there and our command sergeant major and all the leadership. And they lined us up and had us do a right face, or a half right, and had our patch out, and the drill sergeant came by and put the patch on, shook your hand, and said, "Congratulations, soldier." So I think once you actually got that title and earned it, and know that you just went through everything it took to get to that point, it was definitely a very proud moment for me. Also, Command Sergeant Major, he was Command Sergeant Major Lawless, and the speech he gave, that really kind of resonated with me. As far as the whole brotherhood and just making sure you're looking to the left and right of you and making sure those guys are good. He was in a Ranger battalion, and they deploy a lot, they're away from home, He has a son, and he said his son was 7, and he said this kid runs around, playing Army and playing with toy guns, and he said eventually this kid wants to join the military. He's like, he tried to get him into football or like other things, and just all this one kid wants to do is just go in the military. And he said, one day this kid's gonna be right next to you, and he said, I hope I can count on you guys to protect my son and get him home. So definitely sat with me, kind of made me realize that this is a really important thing, just to make sure you're taking care of the people that are with you.
I think getting home from deployment, like the night, I remember the night getting home, like explicitly. I got off the bus, touched America for the first time, and went right back to the barracks room that I left a year ago. And I specifically left a couple things in that room for when I came home. So I was just like, wow, this is exactly how I left it. Everything's fine. I called my mother and father. I was like, hey, I'm back. Got off the plane. Everything's fine. All my guys are back. Called my brother. It was a real happy time. Everybody was just glad to be back stateside. And for me personally, when I got home from deployment, I only had another 3 months in the Marine Corps left. So I was like, this is it. Like, I'm done. Like, I'm gonna be back in Westchester within the next 4 or 5 months. So that was exciting. I was really pumped up. I went through some controversy with re-enlistment or not, and opted to not. So once I made that decision, it was kind of just counting down the days till I was leaving for good. And the day finally came, said my goodbyes. So I think that transition period, that last, like getting home and then that last little bit was probably my golden years of my enlistment. Not much to do, not a lot of stress, just kind of on your own terms, making your farewells to all your friends and gearing up to come back and start a new chapter, and that's where I am today.
It's hard to kind of pick out one because you have things that you'll never forget that are sad, that leave you kind of in this, I don't want to say like despair, but it just brings up like a lot of emotion, like you have friends that passed and buddies that didn't make it home. But there's also a lot of funny stuff that takes place, you know what I mean? I got hit by a cow, and to this day, the guys don't let me live it down. It's one of those things. We were on patrol, on a foot patrol outside of a forward operating base in the Babil province in southern Iraq. And they have these canals that run from the Euphrates River into the farmland. And we're walking through this field, these farm fields, and I'm bringing up the rear of the patrol, carrying a SAW, which is a squad automatic weapon, right? It's a machine gun. And all of a sudden I hear this, this like dum 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 dum, and I turn and I look, and there's this cow, right? Boom, hits me right in the sappy plate, right in the bullet stopper. And the next thing I see is this dirty, filthy, nasty canal water, because that's all the sewage runoff from these houses too. So there's no like running water, and if there is, they spray it into a pipe that runs out into the canal, which they use for irrigation, and that makes its way back to the river. So I hit this water, man. I was not happy about it. I went knee deep in mud, and it's like, up here, and I'm spitting it out, and I'm screaming, get me out of here, oh my God. And the cow will not let these guys near me. It's bucking, it is like going crazy. And I'm like, shoot the cow, shoot the cow. Nobody wants to shoot it because if you shoot it, you have to pay for it in American money, right? So they're like, me being stuck in this river about to drown is not worth the $1,300 that it's gonna cost to pay for this cow if somebody kills it, right? Finally, they fire some shots off in the air, and they run the cow off, and they have to make this lasso out of 550 cord to yank me up the side of this like probably 15-foot embankment, that's just full of stickers and burrs and everything. So they get me out, and I smelt for 3 days. I could not wash this stink off of me. Oh, it was so bad. It was terrible, but it was hilarious. Like looking back on it, it's one of those things that you laugh about.